Yeah, let's talk about that balloon which has been menacing the US. But before I do so, let's just mention that we have a position open for a web developer. So if you happen to be one of those and you like Swindon, if they've got those two things in combination, then apply for that. Right, so the balloon story. Yes, for those of you unfamiliar with China, we've got a map of it here. So China is the country in red, just to the left of all of those United States Air Force bases. Anyway, so this place has been menacing the US with a rather large, big white balloon drifting over the top of it. So this is a sort of story that I saw on social media, and it was everywhere, and I thought that it would just go away, but it didn't. It kept on ramping up, and it was all triggered because people started noticing this. So people started posting these videos of this balloon flying over their house as it sort of drifted its way across the continental United States.
It looks like the Traveller from Destiny.
Yeah. I haven't seen that, but...
It's a giant white orb that prophesises the end times, basically.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe that's what's happening here as well.
Yeah.
Now, I did think, okay, this is a bit silly and this will go away, but actually what interested me in the end was the sheer level of hysteria that this story got to. And I think that's really the story here. I mean, it very quickly became one of those sort of standard left-right ding-dongs with the Democrats were keen to explain that, you know, these balloons, they fly very high and, you know, fighter jets can only get so high, so of course we can't shoot it down. It doesn't emit any heat, and it's got a low, you know, whatever signature that the missiles lock onto, so they can't go after it. The GOP, on the other hand, the Republicans were quite indignant that this thing wasn't being shot down. So fairly early on, the dialogue from the Republicans looked like this.
Defense officials have advised the president not to take it out, fearing it could cause debris to fall and put people in harm's way.
Any potential debris field would be significant and potentially cause civilian injuries or deaths or significant property damage. So again, this is part of the calculus in terms of our overall assessment. But again, we'll continue to monitor it. We'll continue to review our options and keep you updated as able.
But Republicans say Biden looks weak with each second he keeps this communist balloon in the air.
We got to bring this darn thing down. We have the capabilities and tools to do that. I'm confident that we could have done so safely. I think we probably still can do so safely.
They could have shot that balloon down, and the biggest risk might have been hitting a cow, a prairie dog, or an antelope.
This is a brazen act, and so at the political level, we have to push back. We have to defend American sovereignty, and we have to make clear to the Chinese that we're not going to tolerate this.
They're overflying our nuclear sites, and they keep getting away with it because we let them. There's no consequence.
There's lots of questions, but the commander-in-chief is awfully quiet.
Mr. President,
Folks, we're going to get to work. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Tell them to call me back.
Yeah, so this thing actually reached such a fever pitch that US Secretary of State Antony Blinken cancelled his planned trip to China, where it was suggested that he was going to be meeting with Chinese dictator-in-chief Xi Jinping. I mean, that's quite a big deal. I mean, the US Secretary of State is a bit like our Minister for Evil. So it's a big position out there. And obviously, relationships between China and the US have been deteriorating quite a lot over the last few years. So this was potentially quite an important turning point to start to get that back on track. Now, this really sort of ramped up over the weekend when it was sort of overflying the main part of the continental US. And it resulted in various, well, I think just about every security analyst had to put their suit on the weekend and go on and be interviewed by all the big broadcasters to talk about this big menacing white balloon, until eventually it cleared the country, and then finally this happened.
Yodo, he's going right at it.
Take him out.
Oh, wait, those are missiles. Oh my God, they shot it down. They shot it down. No fucking... You hear it?
Oh, it just exploded.
No way. Yo. No fucking way. No way. Wow.
Oh, you see it dropping. See the shit dropping?
Holy
Guys,
It's the Wraith Raytheon rendition of Double Rainbow in the Sky.
That is exactly what it is. So it was shot down by an F-22 firing a $400,000 Sidewinder missile produced by Raytheon.
Oh, wow, okay, there we go.
So you got that exactly right. Raytheon is a company whose share price has done rather well over this last year. Everything else in markets have been down, but Raytheon's up about 30%. I don't know why. You know, sometimes
There was a booth at Conservative Party conference where you could pose with one of their missile launchers.
Right, okay. Well, I mean, markets are funny like that. You know, at the moment, it's defence companies are doing well, really well. You know, the year before that, it was pharmaceutical companies. Things go around in cycles. I'm sure there's no particularly wider agenda to it. It's just how these things happen. Right. So it was eventually shot down once it had cleared the US, and it was over the water, still within US territorial waters, and which is 12 miles out. And apparently, it crashed to less than 50 foot of depth, so it can be recovered and it can be figured out what was going on. So that's the story of what happened. Now, what actually interests me about this is the way it's covered more than what happened. What I'm reminded of is in the run-up to basically any war. I mean, pick the First and Second World War, but I mean basically the run-up to any war. You get this bellicosity, which I think is a word, in the media, which is steadily ramped up. The public are prepared. People are pushed towards, thinking of the other side as being that enemy, that we need to take action, that these things are happening, and we need to push back. Now, what troubles me is that both Republicans and Democrats seem worryingly receptive to this sort of war narrative. Now, Democrats, obviously, we know they love war. You can see this from the fact that at the moment, just about all of the Democrats are more than happy to bravely fight to the last Ukrainian, no matter what the cost to the European economy, which is, I think, stunning and brave on their behalf, and I wish I could have, those kahunas. And Republicans seem to have woken up to the fact that the free trade deals signed with China were, in fact, probably a bad idea, and rather than making China like the West, it is, in fact, achieving the direct opposite of that. So my point is more that the establishment GOP and the Democrats are both total war hogs. Now, I'm not trying to portray myself here as some pussy-ass, peacenik liberal, but the narrative here just feels all wrong to me. It doesn't seem right. So the sort of official new narrative, as we're getting it, is that the Chinese sent a spy balloon over highly strategic US sites, and it chose to spy on these sites with a big white, clearly visible from the ground, with a naked eye balloon.
I think the obviousness of it is probably why certain people were worried that it was either filled with explosives or an EMP device.
Yeah, but I mean, there are levels of obvious. I mean, if it was a spy, it is the most obvious spy since that policeman from the lower low. Good morning.
Yep.
So, on levels of obviousness, it doesn't really carry it on that. But the argument against that, the pushback has been, is that the Chinese were doing it to demonstrate that they had the capability to do this. Well, I mean, it's a hot air balloon. Phileas Fogg had that capability in 1872.
Sure, okay, but I think it's more like a punk test. So this is
Possibly.
what Patrice O'Neill's been told before, or this happened to John, producer, who told me the other day, of where someone will push their luck with you to see if you are an applicable target for a mugging. So if you're playing like a pickup basketball game, they might shove you a little bit, they might whisper under their breath, or if you're standing outside a nightclub, they might ask you for a cigarette and you hand them one, they go, oh, give us two, mate, and then you're just going to have to tell them no, because if they keep asking, they know that they are in a position of power over you, and so that they can take your stuff at the end of the night and not put up much of a fight. So it might be an intimidation tactic to see how far the Chinese can push it, particularly because if we've seen recently the narrative around Pelosi's Taiwan visit at the same time the CHIPS Act was getting passed, was that Biden and the Democrats were showing their hand as saying, we have control over a territory that the Chinese want, and so we aren't too worried about touching down on Taiwanese soil, even if the Chinese are going to have some kind of military pushback. This might be the Chinese trying to flex their muscles a little bit.
It could be that, and I do want to come back to the escalation angle of this, because I think there is merit in that, although it is possibly the other way round, because I'm so sceptical of when I sort of see these drum-beating narratives being put out. So yeah, potentially it's around that. But the reason I'm sceptical about the media narrative around all things when it comes to sort of media-pushed wars. I mean, take for example the proxy war on Russia that's currently being fought. When you strip away all of those media points, when you strip away all of those narrative points, what are you left with what's actually happened? Well, in that case, what you're left with is the US becoming the largest energy supplier to Europe. You're left with the deindustrialization of Germany, and you're left with the removal of the euro as a credible alternative to the dollar, which at the moment, until about a year ago anyway, was the only credible alternative to the dollar at a time of maximum dollar weakness. And it's also driven a wedge between Germany and Russia, which is something that Western powers have always been particularly concerned with a formation between those two occurring, and that was something that was starting to happen. So when I apply that same lens to this balloon story, what has actually happened? Well, I've seen that the US public have been moved to being slightly more receptive to military actions against China, or at least Chinese assets. That has occurred. And what's also actually happened is that there has been a cancellation of a trip of the US Secretary of State to China. Those are the hard outcomes. Basically everything else is speculation at this point. So that leads me to think about, what are some other possible explanations? Because, look, for all I know, maybe it is a spy balloon that's gone over there to spy on nuclear sites or whatever it is. It just seems to me that there are better ways of achieving that. I mean, they've got satellites, and it's not like the US military have not given hundreds of thousands of their service personnel a reason to hate them by firing them because they didn't take the product of
the last lobbyist.
Yes, the last lobbyist that saw their
one of the
share price
reasons
go up.
it might have been worried about being a balloon is because the easiest way to deliver an EMP payload is from that height, and so specifically a balloon would actually be a really good delivery mechanism for that.
That's an interesting point.
So if they were to blow it up, they might have triggered some kind of mechanism which could knock out the grid, particularly because Biden, as well, on day one, reversed an executive order which would incorporate Chinese parts into the American energy grid that could be turned off remotely. So there may be something interesting that could happen there if the Chinese did deliver some sort of corresponding weapon system for that.
So the one argument of this indeed being a Chinese provocation, which I'm most receptive to, is the point that you've made that it could be a bit of a punk test. But I am sceptical of that for the main reason that I don't believe it benefits Chinese to escalate at this point. There is an infographic that I want to throw up, which makes this point. Well, if we can zoom in just on the graphic bit. Yeah. So this is basically showing where the US stands up against the Chinese at the moment. The Chinese have effectively caught up in terms of economic capacity. And they're actually exceeding the US in terms of economic relationships as well. They don't demand, transfer hits when you do a trade deal with them and all of the other factors. But in many other respects, especially as important as being military capability, the Chinese are still the best. Now, this could look completely different. And I think that the Chinese have played the long game. I think they always play the long game. And I think that there is going to be some sort of great power coming down the line. But it doesn't make any sense to me as to why the Chinese would want to leave it now as opposed to escalate.
Because they're having much more success working behind the scenes in capturing certain politicians and financial interests. Yeah. They would be floating a giant balloon into the sky and having everybody screaming.
Well, I mean, we know now that the Hunter Biden laptop was. We know that he was basically on the same with the Chinese, being channeled through various companies, and that he had access to God knows how many classified files in his father's garage, which is apparently a huge amount of files we're now finding out that the Hunt had full access to.
They shared a phone number and bank account.
Well, yes, that as well, and that was the story that we were talking about still before everybody started looking up and going, oh, look, there's a balloon. So on that front, it's a bit of a concern. So what I think this story is really about is, look, could it have been? Is it possible that it actually is just a straight balloon? It could be just a straight balloon. I'm not saying it is, I'm saying it could be. It's also possible that actors within the US deep state saw this and they decided to use the opportunity, because some of our crowd are keen to point at every circumstance that happens and say that it's part of the plan. I generally don't think that the way the big players operate is so much sort of planned events at that level. I think they see what's close to the surface. They push it out.
Never let a good crisis go to waste.
Exactly. They adapt to it. So it's very possible that there are forces within the group who are quite happy to see a continuous ground investigation against China, are happy to take any opportunity, who didn't much like the idea of the conversation between the US and the Secretary of State happening when he was visiting China and wanted to discover it. It is perhaps possible that they seize this opportunity to, push this out to news organisations. I mean, every so often you look up and you see something odd and you don't really think twice about it. But this one has really caught the attention at some point. And ultimately, I think this story links back to another one that we were talking about a few weeks ago, and that is if you remember, General Mike Minhan, head of the Air Force's Air Mobility Command. He said in a memo that he has a gut feeling that a fight with China is coming and it's going to happen in 2025. And I just look at this and, like I say, yeah, fine. Maybe it is a spy balloon, maybe it's one of the things that it said. It just feels to me that narrative is too convenient. It's too playing into the narrative that I've seen built in every war that I've seen in my lifetime, and probably every war that occurred before that. Ramping that tension, that the other, let's get one over. So, and I kind of feel this falls into that whole narrative. So, look, hope I'm wrong. There's a different perspective on it. I'll take a look at the comment page and see what you, the viewers, think. Is it really the most obvious spy provocation as a punk? Is it? Tell us what you think.
It might be mightily convenient at a time that BRICS is beginning to instantiate itself as a gold for commodities economy, whereas we are adopting the Chinese social credit system, things like renewables, digital ID, to alienate China. Those politicians in the West want to control us throughout the hands and say, well, it's not our fault. They all the resources, they're not the resources. They flew the balloon over, we just have to control your rationale.
I agree entirely, makes sense. And if that was to happen, we could find ourselves in some dystopian future and then speech.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaton, you can go to lotuseaton.com to get access to all the premium content on the site, such as the Economic series, the recent episode on gold. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow us on Getter at lotuseaton.com on Getter. Thank you. Thanks.
Great hybrid work event. Get a $100 gift card when you spend $500 or more. It's time.
Yeah, so breaking news. The world has been gripped by an utterly irrational mass formation psychosis since 2020. And we now have further evidence that the bumbling nobody in charge is just making it up. I'm referring to Matt Hancock. Who used to work with the Bank of England during the century and found himself in the position of our Connor is currently full of discussion. I think they're due to come out over about 3 month period. So there's going to be quite a lot of you can only imagine what they say you've done. So Connor will be getting that into some detail. And of course, Harry and Callum will come at the weekend. We mainly cover the headlines because the headlines were pretty telling in of themselves, although looking at the actual screenshots as well just goes to show the glittering victory of the people this country. So this is not so much going to be a sort of, covering it for the first time, doing it as a story segment. This is more going to be in reference to sheer cope and also just on my part a bit of an angry rant because I'm still really pissed off about what it is and what they did to us for 2 years, so I want to get it out my system.
Always got a few angry ranks to bust you, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely, especially for this. Now, before I do get into that, I'm just going to mention Premium Contemplations 113 Limitations of Science. a slightly older one, but it is a good one for this topic, so I thought I'd mention that. You can find that on the website of the Lotus Eaters. Now, going back to the topic, let's give some context, shall we? So, since March 2020, basically these times recently started becoming around to it, although I still see people.
There may be 1 in 20, but there is still people out there doing it.
I actually saw somebody at the weekend.
Were they afraid the squirrels were going to combat them?
I don't know. I can only hope they had some absolutely hideous facial disfiguration. Something like maybe some Siamese.
That would be the only excuse for a
start quite real. But anyway, so you feel appalling. And that's really what I wanted to sort of cover. Because, back then, people came to believe the deadly virus, which had escaped a level 4 biolab in China, the site where people wear those full body suits with their own oxygen supply. People came to believe that a virus had escaped that environment could be stopped by cutting up an old t-shirt and wearing it around their face.
I remember for a while when it first started, I decided, screw it, I'm going to take the bandito look, and I just had a bandana that I just started wearing around my face just to make people around me feel very comfortable, and then I got scolded by people telling me that the multiple layers of fabric of the bandit mask that I was wearing, this bandana, was not enough, and instead I had to use the incredibly flimsy and thin face masks that we were being told would be much more effective. And
honestly,
that never made any sense to me.
I struggle with the fact that I'm part of the same species as people who genuinely somehow came to believe this stuff. I've also got a Brokenomics out later today at 3 p.m. with Professor Hector, where we demolish the face mask thing. He goes into some detail, so if you want to see face mask science getting absolutely torn to shreds, tune in at 3 o'clock on the website of the Lotus Eaters and you'll see that takedown. So, one of the major contentions of people like me at the time, and probably many of you viewers as well, is that the government, they were basically just making it up as they went along. They were stoking fear. I certainly had this thrown at me a lot. I actually had several Tory MPs call me a COVID-idiot.
You specifically, or just in general?
No, me in particular. But
really?
When I started getting prominent on talking about these things, Piers Morgan called me badly misinformed.
Oh, that's interesting coming from him.
Kate Burley from Sky News decided to compare me to the sort of person who would slow down for a car crash because I was questioning her narrative on some of this stuff. So I certainly am one of those people who was getting it in the neck at the time because, well, it turns out I was right about bloody all of it, as these WhatsApp messages have proven. And, what's changed recently? Well, this has come out since the weekend, since the segment you did, which is particularly interesting. So take a look at this. This is a conversation, one of these WhatsApp conversations. The particularly interesting thing to note here is, of course, the date, the 13th of December 2020. That comes into relation in a minute. And this part of the conversation about we need to frighten the pants off everybody with a new strain. And Matt Hancock is saying, when do we deploy the new variant? Now, one of the threads that I did at the time on this subject was that, with these viruses, they are not, it is not binary when you move from one state to another. It's not like 4 Lego blocks where you rearrange them and you've now got a new variant. It is a long string of proteins that are continuously evolving over time. And what you can simply do is you can look at it and you can say, right, well, I think there's been sufficient change that I'm now going to declare that this is a new variant, but it is basically a continuum. So you can pick anywhere on that continuum and you can declare that there's a new variant and use that to scare people.
So it's mainly arbitrary, is what you're saying there?
Yeah, well, entirely, yeah. It's just when you decide that there's sufficient grounds for giving it a new name. Now,
time to panic.
Yeah, quite. The 13th of December, that was when we received the Kent variant, which was called British variant elsewhere.
I don't have anything specific.
I don't even remember this one at that point.
Yeah, I mean, there were so many of them, isn't it? It's just such a complete load of absolute shite. But that is that.
Family friendly.
The point is, boys, that
Yes.
those of us who question this stuff were absolutely right, and it has been proven beyond absolute fact at this point, and there's going to be a lot more of these coming out as well. Now, let's start thinking about some of the harms that this did. I mean, here's an image of, kids left out in the snow. I don't think that's in the UK, but this sort of thing did happen in the UK as well. This is just the first image that I found that met this sort of thing. My own kids in the schools, in the primary school that they're in, all through the winter they left all the windows and doors open, sort of -4 degrees.
Oh,
and they had to sit there in their coats all day long because the staff had been had been propagandised by this sort of fear-mongering nonsense that we got out. And it wasn't just kids who were the victim of this. This is a Toby Young tweet about a business that was destroyed by this. They didn't buy into this bullshit either, and they were fined £42,000. It's been reduced a bit, but you know, this is one example. There were many businesses who have not had prominence.
I mean, it says that they refused to comply with COVID restrictions in November 2020, which, if I remember correctly, was only 3 months after the government's Eat Out to Help Out scheme. So if they'd done so 3 months previously, they would have been given handouts from the government, but because they chose to do it in the winter, all of a sudden it's illegal.
Yeah, the absolute madness of this period, and you know, there were many other businesses destroyed who simply just couldn't operate, you know, being closed for, you know, much of this sort of 2-year period, with the small exception of the Eat Out to Help Out bit. And I put together some compilations. So this is a compilation that I put together of the police acting like, well, I won't say it, but you know, here we are. You know, I think that one on the left is German police arresting Santa Claus. Because,
literally arresting a symbol of childhood happiness.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you go back far enough into the lore of Santa Claus, he did start off as a German paedophile. I think that's where the story originated. So,
why would the police be going after him?
No, obviously the police wouldn't go after that sort of thing.
No.
You know, especially statute of limitations, and that's quite an old story. But anyway, so the thinking is that a thin piece of T-shirt that would protect you, but because he's wearing a big white fluffy beard. He needs to be arrested and put on the...
He's a carrier.
Yes.
Must have been.
Then we've got police harassing people on the beach. That could be Australia, that one. I mean, the Australian police went completely mad, didn't they? I think that's German police again, or maybe Austrian, or, you know, one of those whatever countries.
Do you remember, I think it was the Scottish police, they put out a photo on their Twitter of some area in Scotland of just a field and just said, remember, we're watching wherever you are.
Oh, they were flying drones around and stuff, weren't they? In fact, I mean, we could do a whole segment on just the police response. It was complete madness. In one area, they dyed a lake like a blue colour. No, was it? It was naturally a blue colour. They dyed it purple or something to stop people going to have a look at it, because they wanted to stop people going outside.
I mean, if you couldn't describe to me cartoonishly evil in one image, and that's that.
Well, quite. So yeah, much respect.
Were they also going around on that one in the middle on the beach? Were they also kicking over the sand castles? I assume.
Well, and they were doing that as well. They were filling in skating parks and all the rest of it, weren't they? And then, of course, the iconic image on the right of Canadian police, Canada being the home to tolerance and communism, of course, riding over a elderly Indian woman
for her own health.
Yes, on a mobility scooter with a horse, because well, there was some sort of reason they gave at the time, and I forget what it was now. So it wasn't just police acting like this. Here are some wedding photos, which I've decided to pick on. So on the left, we've got two complete couple of nodders.
At least they went the extra mile to decorate the masks for the occasion.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know if these people were aware of what was expected of them on a wedding night, but they are going to have to get somewhat more intimate than that.
Yes, quite. Look, they're going to be looking at these wedding photos for the next sort of 30 or 40 years. I mean, well, you know, divorce rates notwithstanding.
Well, I mean, if these two people ended up doing that, I'm not holding out hope for the marriage.
So they're going to be looking at wedding photos like that for decades to come, where they look like complete Burks because they bought into the nonsense of the time. And just to illustrate the point of what wedding photos are supposed to look like, I included one of my own wedding photos on the right, where I got married on a battleship, because of course I did.
Are you just dunking on the audience now?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I honestly, I don't understand people who get married in churches. Have churches ever fired on the enemy?
Well, I mean,
I don't
probably.
think so. You show me a church that has 3 confirmed U-boat kills and put 2,000 rounds into German defences on D-Day. That's where I got married, HMS Belfast. So that's what your wedding photos are supposed to look like, and they are not supposed to look like that absolute...
I mean, my friends live on the Channel Islands, so I'll ask them if there's any churches down there that can fulfill your qualifications.
Well, I'm hoping not to do it again, unless it annoys me or something. But, I should watch these. Right, quickly, move on to the next one.
Quickly.
The next photo is just knobbers in general. You know, there were so many images that we could choose from this period of absolute madness. So there's a priest using a water bottle to baptise the baby.
Holding up that family, I assume.
There we've got somebody who watches the TV and has taken it seriously. And I mean, all of these people are TV TV.
Those tubes aren't even 6 meters.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks like an actual dickhead.
Yes. And, I mean, there were surprisingly many examples of people wearing pool noodles on their head. There was one cafe that made a whole bunch of people do it. And, then, of course, people walking in the woods in whatever setup that is. And, you know, I was so spoiled for choice when it came to pictures of people being ridiculous about all of this.
You know, the year before all of this went down in 2019, I lived in Salford, and one time I went to the local supermarket in Salford, and there were these people wandering about. I don't know what was wrong with them, if they were just hypochondriacs in full hazmat suits, and I can only assume they were just ahead of the curve.
What was wrong with them is they were TV watchers. That must have been it.
Probably.
Yeah.
I was shocked as well that you've not included my favourite images from the whole thing of the entire, I think it's a jazz band or an orchestra, where they're all playing their images in little plastic boxes, and they're wearing their masks, but the masks have slits cut through them so they can get...
Yes.
It's so stupid. These people, like you say, these people have got photographic evidence of how retarded they are, that they can look back on for the rest of their life, and with shame.
You won't find any photographic evidence of me in a mask, I can promise you that. But it wasn't just people being hilariously stupid. Let's cut to a slightly sadder tweet of mine. There were other responses to the I won't name on this website, but this is a young woman.
An image paints 1,000 words, right?
Yeah. 21 years old, who had a heart condition. And she was told that despite of the fact that it would almost certainly cause significant harms, that she should participate in that response to the COVID thing we won't talk about. And it had the particular response of causing potential big
I will say, without naming any specifics, that I also have met somebody who had certain complications that as a result of which they were one of, I think, 8 people in the country to have confirmed to have developed cancer because of it, which is pretty awful
that
to
we
learn.
know of. That we know. I mean, I know somebody.
Yes, that we know of.
No, I know somebody who she wasn't a professional runner, but she was very near it. She's one of those people who's a really good runner. You'd see on Strava all the time, posting these amazing times. And she participated in this aspect of the COVID response, and she lost 30% of her lung tissue due to lung cancer. She's out now, and she's, I say, running again. But, you know, I see her time on Strava. For those of you who are listening
on the other
to
side. Hope you're
I am
proud.
a fat old man, and yet I can easily outrun her. She was an absolute sort of champion. So you know, this is very sad. We don't know the full extent of the rare
whack the blockers
associated with this aspect of the pandemic, but you know, people were hurt. Now, that's just what happened to us here in the Western world. The response to the effect in the developing world was utterly demonic. So the UN put out a report, and they calculated 100 million people by lockdown. Because of course when Western world shuts down supply chains, shuts down normal business, that has a ripple effect out to the rest of the world. Western world started bidding up things like energy and food supply, which became rare.
Enemy invader
which basically resulted in making sure that the flow to the Western world was uninterrupted while these knock-on effects were taking effect, but it meant that the developing world did get squeezed out. So 100 million people were beaten to poverty around the world by the lockdown, and this is a number that I want to sear into your mind. That same report concluded that 283,000 children starved to death as a direct result of lockdown.
You're losing most.
So let me say that again.
Ice the block.
283,000 children died as a direct result of lockdown, starvation.
And when did this report come out?
Oh, this was
You're invading.
maybe about a year ago now. I forget the time. It was a UN report that came out, and they also concluded that a further 6.7 million were basically malnourished as a result of this, and that malnourishment will be causing health problems for the rest of their life.
And I don't see Kay Burley or anybody continually bringing this one up.
None of them care. So, and this is all because in the Western world, people like Matt Hancock thought they knew best, and they thought that they thought that they got it better. And when they realised that they had made a mistake, they doubled down. because they wanted to avoid looking like they'd made a mistake. And these leaks, these WhatsApp messages that we're seeing now, they knew that they were peddling complete and utter bullshit, and yet they went ahead and did it anyway. They
Invaders
trampled
here.
freedoms,
Brace
they
yourself.
destroyed businesses, they ruined lives, they cost lives, as we've seen here. They denied people the comfort of being with their friends and family in their final moments. People, including young children, died in hospital without their family next to them, because the staff of these hospitals were terrified to let people in, because scumbags like Matt Hancock frightened them with stuff that they knew simply wasn't true. I'm going to throw you now to the Terrorism Act 2000, because as far as I'm concerned, Matt Hancock is a terrorist. So this you can find on the website. If you type in Terrorism Act 2000. I'm looking here at Section 1. Definitions, and I'm just going to read a little bit of what the definition.
Pick up the pace, carry your fucking weight, or I'm done carrying you on.
The use or threat is designed to influence a government or intimidate the public.
Sounds like a bit of both to me.
Yeah, it is precisely. He did precisely both of these things. Further, this section goes on to explain the action falls within the subset if it involves serious violence against a person. Well, I've shown you people with, serious injuries. If it involves serious damages to properties, well, yes, many businesses were utterly destroyed by this. If it endangers people's life, other than the person committing the action, yes, because Matt Hancock.
I would have actually been doing a lot sooner if you guys were dealing with the blockers and didn't need me to deal with 3 to 4 alone.
No, certainly not. Maybe minus 2.5 inches, but that would be about it. And further, the Act says creates serious risk of the health and safety of the public. Well, played record NHS waiting lists for people who kill themselves. Stress and anxiety was caused.
Almost 300,000 children starved across the globe.
Yep, all of that as well.
And I know that you're going to get onto this by the time we get to the end of the segment, but I think as well, I think you're being rather... You're not being ambitious enough by just saying Matt Hancock here, because it is very, very convenient that all of the leaks seem only directly towards Matt Hancock being instigated. Which is very, very true, yes. Also very suspicious that Matt Hancock himself was supposedly the person who leaked it to Isabel Oakeshott. There's obviously some manoeuvring going on behind the scenes.
I mean, that raises an interesting question. Is Matt Hancock the fall guy? And look, he would make a great one, right? Because
Seriously,
allies invading the other side.
Carry your weight now.
a few months back with
compromised. Focus your fire.
Which was, I assume, supposed to be his managerially sponsored punishment.
Well, because he's so good, he actually thought that he would be quite innocent. He needed to boost his public image by going by doing that. He could be quite innocent.
If I eat some horse testicles on live television, all is forgiven.
Is that what they do?
I'm a celebrity, I believe so, or camel testicles or something.
So you link balls and because it was Russian, because John he handed over these messages to Isabel Oakeshott, the journalist who was writing his memoir, ghostwriting memoir, and when she saw it, she decided that actually it was great the MPA, she could make the legal fall down that came with that, and she's going to publish it because, quite frankly, I think it's the right thing. But there are those people who think we would be set up a support gun, and I agree with that. I think he is, because the telephone is basically happy with him. By making it all about him, they're not focusing on the other government.
Vader's gone. Get him next time.
I'm seeing online making a suggestion that this is being done to further
Envoys eliminated. Focus on the prime evil. Allies headed to the other side.
Bill that's going through the transfer out and operate them.
I've covered that a few times. You can find those on your podcast in the old channel.
I don't personally feel too much because I think the revolution
that paper and other such legislation, as far as I see it, is basically just a legalised formalisation of what already happens. What's already going on.
Right, okay, so people should absolutely check out those.
I would recommend it, yes.
But I'm going to refer to how it felt back in 2000. This is a quiz I quite like. That was exactly how it felt back in 2000. I'm sure a lot of people watching that front had to stand up to a lot of people saying yes, yes. And I'm sure there'll be even more of you watching this. Well, actually, I was probably in the crowd as well. But at least I recognise where we are now.
For a time, I have to admit that I also was in the crowd for a little bit, but then as soon as it got to around the eat out, help out, and then unlike many others, I have certain pattern recognition skills which are dying out these days. I started to notice every bit of information the government is giving us is contradictory, and now I know people personally who have COVID firsthand. I know that it doesn't seem to be anywhere near as severe as they're making it out.
Yeah, anybody with basic mental capacity can. However, not everybody's got that.
Opposing team's about to win.
So here's a poll from YouGov, where basically 71% of it, if you add up.
And that's it. Opposing
So
team
basically the
took
question
out
here,
their
in
prime.
hindsight, do you think the government can do it? Generally, and 71% of people have said that it was either not strict enough or about right. Very disappointing. Certainly should people think that. I will point out that YouGov is basically more of a gaslighting operation than a poll.
YouGov is not the most trustworthy organisation.
No, I actually met the people who founded it, because YouGov is, well, it used to be owned by Naeem Sawahawi, who was the government's vaccine minister for many years, and a couple of other guys. I know, I met them about 20 years ago. They came to me wanting money.
Oh, I'm sorry.
When they were trying to start up.
That must have been a difficult experience for you.
I mean, they're
still recovering now.
They're quite affable chaps, but I mean, they're explaining their methodology to me and saying, basically what we do is we select people to participate in these surveys.
Well, from what I've heard as well, I think Callum covered it back when everybody started to notice, hold up, 71% seems to be the sweet spot number for YouGov polls, that a lot of people who they've probably gathered information on from previous responses to other surveys, they don't get sent the emails out if it's a particular survey.
Because they build a profile on the people who respond to the surveys, so by simply selecting who they send it to, they can pretty much guarantee the result that they're going to get in advance. And this is one of the questions that I put to them about 20 years ago, and they sort of, gave me that sort of look that implies, well, it couldn't possibly, but, and then gave me all the right guff about, oh, no, our methodology is designed to be blah, 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 blah. But yeah, absolutely, that's bloody well what they do. I didn't invest, by the way, but they seem to have done all right anyway. So, so that YouGov poll is suggesting that an alarmingly large amount of people seem to think that actually the government did get it right when it was just incontrovertible evidence they got it completely wrong. And this is a tweet that I put out because
ready
the
to see what you're fighting
really
today?
Bad case
Falling on the horizon.
So you've got some economists and barristers and people basically
Had a falling
trying to
drag
say
on my crew once.
that yes, these revelations basically showed them completely wrong, but actually we weren't because of the reasons.
Transmat is go.
I mean, well, you can read them at your leisure, but basically there's a whole bunch of people out there at the moment desperately trying to justify why they were not in fact wrong. That's Andrew Linko, who made a complete fool of himself at the beginning by basically swathing himself, his family, and his shopping in Dettol every time they came back into the house for quarantine and food for 3 days and all the rest of it. He's now trying to explain that there was nothing wrong with it. I like this quote from Thomas Sowell. People will forgive you for being wrong, but they will never forgive you for being right, especially if events prove that you were right while proving them wrong. That is exactly what the Western world is going through at the moment, and we're going to have to come to terms with this. So, that is all. That is all very sad.
Hostiles
we've
inbound
got
to the beach.
to this situation. This is effectively, this is, I think, a domino falling. Now, Matt Hancock, he is a terrorist. I've shown you that he meets all the qualifications for a terrorist. What they did to us was utterly reprehensible. I needed to speak out on this issue because it upsets me so much. Upsets me what they did to people, what they did to children, what they did to businesses, the harms that they put on people, the missed cancer diagnosis, well, not to mention the 283,000 children they starved to death for doing all of this. So
it is very important that we don't let this slip from public memory.
And I know that Matt Hancock is currently being set up as a fortnight, I say take him down, let's book that win, and then don't give up there. Let's carry on to the rest of the people who perpetrated dishonours. But, you know, I'm more than happy to take down Matt Hancock, who is this smug idiot.
I mean, we've got texts included in these leaks showing that Boris was looking at the data, coming to the conclusions that many of these supposed anti-vaxxers, like yourself and myself, were coming to, and then went ahead with everything that was advised to
At
them
the very
anyway.
least, I mean, Boris has had the easy ride of his soapbox, at the very least. Very weak man.
High value target identified.
So yeah, Matt Hancock, we're coming for you, and we're coming for the rest of you as well.
If you appreciated that segment from a podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content on the site, such as the Epoch series, this one on historical financial crises. If you'd like to find out what else Lotus is putting out, you can follow on Getter at lotuseaters_com on
Enemy
Getter. Thank you
invader
and goodbye.
down. Hey, you can't blame him for trying. Half pint taken, headed to the other side. Embrace the darkness. Take out those guardians. Yeah! High value target eliminated. Watch it! You're shedding moats! Kill the blockers! Hostiles inbound at the beach.
The last bunch. All you're doing is focusing on picking up mokes. All the blockers arrive and you don't give one shit. Wow, you lost again.
Opposing team summoned the Prime Evil. If they kill it, they win this. Portal is prime. Lock it. This is what the taken feel. Revel in this. One down. It's not over. Kill that Prime Evil. 2 down. Primeval's compromised. Hit it with everything you've got. You're being invaded. Find them before they find you. This is what the Taken feel. Revel in this. That's one. You're in the lead. Take down that Prime Evil, and this gambit's you. Enemy invader down. You can relax. 10 seconds, and I pull you back. Compromised. Burn it down. You're in the lead. Take down that Prime Evil, and this gambit's yours. Allies headed to the other side. That Prime Evil's nearly dead. kills. Yes. Brother, you've got some fucking luck.
I will not carry you. Smarten up.
Hey, try not to clear these gambit arenas so fast. It takes work to lure these guys all the way out here to fight you.
Tired of idiots in this. Please give me a good match.
Cabal on the field. Let's bet big. The Cabal have been busy while I was gone. What say we remind them who owns this system? Get ready to drop. Let's hunt some hostiles, brother. Bring their moats to the bank.
Last time I came across the Aesir clan missing Iron Banner. They're worthy opponents. At least the ones I met were.
Drill.
Now what do you know? No one knows about the code for it. So be it. See you all there.
and moats. Ice the blockers. High-value target is
Stop
on the
worrying
field.
about the
Hunt
heavy
it down.
ammo this time. And deal with the blockers before we lose everything. Fucking blueberries are gonna cost us this game.
Invader on the field. Careful.
But guess what, you fuckers? I don't get my heavy ammo, but all you do. You know why?
Your
They
allies
did what I was
invading
supposed
the
to.
other side.
Fucking imbeciles. One of these matches,
Enemy invader down. You can relax. Your invader's back with 2 kills. You're close. Bank and summon that Primeval. Portal's prime. Go make a mess. Incoming wave at the drill. Medium blocker outbound. This is what the taken feel. Rebel. You just robbed that Guardian blind. That's 2. Bury another. Bringing you back. Good hunt. Invader incoming. Envoys eliminated. Focus on the Primeval.
Can't kill me with a gun, huh?
Enemy invader down. Hey, we can't blame him for trying. Find them before they find you. Enemy invader down. You can go. Envoys eliminated. Focus on the Primeval. Invaders here. Brace yourself. Invader down. You can relax now. Enemy invader is down. You can breathe. Your enemy called up a Primeval. Finish this before they do. You're in the lead. Take down that Primeval, and this gambit's yours. Invader inbound.
On board.
Enemy invader down. 3 to hunt. Envoys in the dirt. Now kill the big guy. Primeval's nearly dead. Yes, sir. That's what I call hunting.
You guys need to find yourself malfeasance.
Nice work. They're gonna talk about that fight all the way over in the Tangled Shore, soon as I tell them.
Use chain of command on that one. Just 1 week. Okay, do I kill them all?
access, but the path remains treacherous. Trust your weapons and your wits. May the light provide. All this radial area. I believe some humans call it Vex Milk. There is a simple poetry to the name, though it is factually incorrect on many levels.
That's not
Lazarus